Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi Jong and today we're taking a look at purple makeup. So I have already done a video with a whole bunch of purple favorites and so forth. I'll leave that linked down below, but purple is my favorite color and I have even more purple makeup. So we are going to be playing around with that. We're also going to take a look at the new Dries Van Noten purple lipsticks that we have here. They are limited edition, but we're going to take a look at how we can use those on a regular, more everyday basis if you don't want to look too purple. So let me know what you think. I cannot wait to see, and let's go ahead and get started. We're going to get ready together. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We are using purple everywhere that we can today. And so right now on my skin, I use the Surratt Perfectionist Primer as a base, and then the Chanel Sublimage Foundation, and I wear shade 01 Beige. And then I have the Chanel Le Correcteur de Teint on for concealer in the shade BR02. And now we're going to go ahead and set it with this powder from Givenchy. This was limited edition. I actually ended up picking up a couple backups because this was so beautiful. But this came out not this past holiday season, the one before. It's shade number 11, Sparkling Lilac. And I do have some videos, with some other alternatives, but this is still my favorite lavender powder. That, and I really like the Suku one, which unfortunately was also limited edition. So I'm taking this Kyoto Yoshiki brush and I'm gonna dust this on just kind of all over briefly. So you can see I tapped off all of the excess powder and just gonna put that on. This brush is so soft and I just couldn't resist the gradient of the handle. I mean, look at that, it's so pretty. And this is half the side dusted versus not dusted. You can see the difference. You can see how the skin gets a little bit of a cooler hint to it. You've got a little bit of that lavender glow there. And notice in the cheeks how you get a little bit more like of a pearly luminescence there with a little bit of that lavender sheen. I really like that. So for the eyes, we are going to be going into these Bakeup Beauty palettes. We're going to take the purple shades from here. And Bakeup Beauty, this is a new brand, and this is their newest palette here. This is called Desert Road Trip. And I've been wearing this one. And this is from Jo Baker. So the makeup artist Jo Baker, she created these. The idea is to have like fun, playful makeup. This has a 2-year shelf life. It is made in China, and I guess the company is in Phoenix, Arizona. We have 4.1 grams. And I have to say, this is performing really well. So I will have a video with the Bakeup Beauty, a little bit later where we look at all of the palettes. But today, let's take a look at these. So just real quickly, we've got this one here, which is called the Neon Palm palette. So this is the Neon palette. This is the Pastel palette. Maybe we'll mix a little blue in there too. And then we'll see. And then this other one here is more your primaries. So yes, it's called primaries. And yeah, so we'll be playing with those. And let's go ahead and start off. We're going to start off with the Pastel Lavender. Well, let's go ahead and start with that. So I'm taking this Sonia G Classic Crease into the lavender in the pastel palette. And Bakeup Beauty, they have actually released their own brushes, like a brush trio for these as well. I did pick that up just in my most recent order, but I haven't used those brushes yet. I have to wash them still. But there's a trio of 3 synthetic brushes. The first time, I don't remember if they were there when I ordered the palettes initially, but they are now with the Desert palette. Now let's take the Rephr 14 into the primary purple. Now you can see that these are very, they're essentially more like a pressed pigment. So if you've tried the Hindosh palette, you can see this one definitely has a lot of pink in it. If you've tried the Hindosh palette, that's what these feel like, but they're just in, obviously more of a traditional eyeshadow format in the palettes. Let's go ahead and we're going to add just a little bit of the blue from the Pastel palette kind of on top of that, just to kind of tone down a little bit of that pinkness. Ooh, look at that. I love the blue base purples, so I think this is a really pretty combination. I'm just gonna go in with the classic crease again and just kind of buff all of this out a little bit, feather out the edges. I'm going to take the Synergy Worker Pro into the Neons palette with that purple. And I want to say, I think that we're going to be, oh, you can see this one is going to have a lot of pink in it as well. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of these like pressed pigment products. A long time ago, you know, like years ago, pressed pigments, I feel like they were pretty patchy, kind of splotchy on the eyes. But I feel like now they've really been able to kind of, you know, perfect the formula a bit. Going back into the pastel here. Put this on the inner portion here. Pastel is definitely going to be significantly lighter. Like I can actually see my skin through. It's a much more sheer shadow in general. So that's pretty. Just gonna add a touch of the blue from the neon and just kind of softly pat that right where the color switches. Very, very softly. I wiped off the brush and now I'm just kind of feathering the edges of that a little bit. All right, for the lower lash line, let's take the Pencil Pro into the pink in the pastel palette. We're going to put this on and we'll do a gradation into, ooh, that's more pigmented than I thought. Yeah, we'll go into the blue. So let's go to the, just past the halfway point there. And then let's take the blue in the pastel as well. Okay, wiping off the brush and just kind of blending the pink and the blue right in the center to get that purple. All right, so there's that. I think we'll just add some black eyeliner and mascara. Taking the Chantecaille eyeliner in Raven. Taking the Esom V09 to kind of give that a little bit of a smudge, but still keep it pretty thin. So this turned out a little differently than I planned. My pencil point broke when I was lining my eyes. So unfortunately I ended up having to do a wing, which was not the intention. For mascara, I decided to mix the Pat McGrath blue mascara. So this is the ultraviolet blue. So I put this all over the lashes and then I did just the very tips of the lashes with her pink mascara, which is called Pink Mystique. So those are the eyes there. All right, so let's move on to blush. So we're gonna go into this Viseart palette, and some of these shades are now in some of the duos that they've created. This is the Orange Violet palette, but they do have these shades in other combinations. So let's start off with, you know what, let's mix these two together. I'm gonna take this Hakuhodo B152 and we're gonna mix these. All right, so this is it on the brush. I'm gonna tap some of this off first. Okay, let's see. Definitely red base purple, which I think is better for the cheeks overall. What do you guys think? Okay, let's do this side a little further away. All right, so I just wiped off everything extra on the brush. I'm just gonna kind of soften these edges a little bit. And I'm just wiping the brush in between sides. One of the things I noticed is pretty much everything I'm using does not have mirrors. So it's a little bit hard to see what I'm doing. All right, so there's the purple blush from Viseart. And then I picked up this Pat McGrath. This is the Skin Fetish Highlighter and Balm Duo. And this is in Cyber Orchid. So we have two sides here. Let's go ahead and swatch this here. So, whoa, look at that. So that is the highlighter side. And then the balm, is this just a clear balm? I'm not sure. I think it might be. Yeah, it looks like just a clear balm. I don't see any pigmentation there. Let's go ahead and put this on. So I'm going to just use my fingers to tap this on. I'm sure I don't need a lot. Definitely lavender looking. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to add a little bit up here under the brow as well. I want to add this to the inner corner of the eye. So I'm going to take the Pencil Pro that I was using before. I think it's as noticeable in the eyes. Maybe it's too small of an area to get enough light reflection, but I'm sure it'll be noticeable at certain times and certain angles. And next up, we're taking a look at the two new Dries Van Noten lipstick shades. So there are two shades. There's a satin, which is this one here, and a matte, which is much deeper, more blue-based it looks like. So while you're taking a look at these lip swatches of the new shades, we're starting off with the limited edition shade Lovely Lilac, which is the satin shade. And you can see it's actually a pretty opaque satin. Moving on to our matte shade here, we're looking at the limited edition shade Digital Violet. And I have to say, I think both of the shades are great. They're very nice on their own, but I actually like them mixed together as I'm showing you in this third set of swatches here. So I left the Digital Violet on, just kind of blotted it off so there wasn't much excess. And then I covered the center with the actual Lovely Lilac satin shade. And I really like that mixture. I think it is something really fun, unique, a little bit different. Now, one thing I also wanted to note is this new case. Now, this case, when it initially launched on the Dries Van Noten website, it looked like everything was limited edition, the case and the two lipstick shades. But looking at it now, it looks like, you can see I still have the lipstick on there. Let me clean that off. But it looks like the case will be permanent and just the actual lipstick shades are limited edition. So there we go. And yeah, now you're probably thinking, am I really going to wear purple lipstick? Well, let's take a look and try this out mixed with some other shades, because I actually think these are great mixer lipsticks as well, with like reds and pinks to kind of cool things off a little bit and add something a little bit fun and unique. So let's go ahead and try some out. Now, one thing to note about the Dries Van Noten lipsticks, one of the things that I find very annoying, these are refillable, by the way, you buy the refill and the case separately. In order to find out your shade, you actually have to remove it. So this is Matte 80. I'll have to look up the name online, but you can see that this one here is kind of a deep berry shade. So let me just swatch the deep purple with that as well. And there's the Digital Violet. So you can see we can do something really fun with that. I'm gonna start off with the Matte 80 and then put the Digital Violet on as well. Kind of rubbing that together a little bit. I'm going to use a lip brush for the purple. Well, this is actually, I use this for a lip brush, but it's the Sisley brush that came with the concealer, not the, whichever one, the Phytosterns Eclat, I think it was called. So I don't have that concealer anymore, but I still use a lip brush. All right, so it's not the neatest job. I actually smeared some onto my skin that I'll have to clean up afterwards, but you can see how the deep purple there just gives it a little bit of a different effect. I mean, look at that. You can see it cools it off. It gives a slightly different look. I actually really like it. So next, let's take a look at Matte 75 with the purple. So that's this one here, the Digital Violet with Matte 75. I'm going to put the red actually in the center of this time. So let's test that out. All right, and here's the Matte 75. Let's go ahead and put this on here. So you can definitely have something more striking like this, or we can blend this out a little. I wiped off the brush. You can just kind of soften this into the edges here and get kind of a more custom color. Look at the difference there. So now we just have a totally custom blended lipstick color. It's a little purple, a little red. You know, you can see that this red was more of a neutral, slightly warm red. And you can see how different it actually is on the lips there. So this is up close. You can see the difference. Next, for the satins, let's take a look at this shade here. And I think this is called Revised Pink. It's Satin 60. So let me go ahead and swatch this one. You can see that it's kind of a really classic carnation pink shade, if you think of Crayola crayons. And then here is the lovely lilac. So let's go ahead. We'll start off with this on the lips with the lilac in the center. Here's the lilac. And you can see here, just adding a little bit of the lilac just gave it a slightly different color, but it's such a sheer lilac shade. Well, not sheer per se, but such a light lilac shade, and I have way more pink that it's not going to be in your face. So let me know what you think. You can see if you wanted to mix them all together, you can really cool off your pink lipstick. And now we have a much cooler tone pink in general. All right, so one more, I wanna mix it with a gloss. We're gonna start off with the lovely lilac. And then we're gonna take this Dior gloss. This is in shade 026. This is one of the maximizers. And you can see it's a pretty like shimmery mauve. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna put the lilac all over. So here's the lilac. Let's add the gloss. So I'm just gonna blot a little bit first. And then let's go ahead and add some of this gloss here. And I didn't want to add it all to the center, but you know what? Let's add a little bit of a purpley gloss from Dior on the center. This is the 003 from the Dior Maximizers. It's pretty sheer, but it has a little bit of a purpley glint to it. Anytime I dip a wand and then put it on my lips that have pigment on, I'm always careful to wipe it just so there's no like color contamination in my actual tube. So yeah, this is it. Can definitely still see the purple, but it's a different look and I think it's really nice. And I don't have a lavender like lip liner. I'm gonna take this eyeshadow pencil from Flavedo and Albedo. This is their lavender shade. I'm just going to quickly go around the lips real quickly. Now I have to say I don't know if this is lip safe, but I'm willing to take the risk for this. So this is a swatch of the eye pencil. You can see it goes really well with that lovely satin or lovely lilac. All right, so let's go ahead and just swatch through the items that we use, the eyeshadows, blushes, and so forth, since we didn't look at those closely. And yeah, let's go ahead. Now, I want to first start with this Pat McGrath highlighter. We did swatch this before, so I'm not going to re-swatch the Clear Balm. But when I picked this up, I was curious about how it compared to the Lila shade from Chanel. So I did want to do a quick comparison there. You can see obviously the Pat McGrath is going to be way more intense, way more like holographic and so forth. And it's going to be a cooler purple. Now for the Bakeup Beauty, we're just going to go ahead and swatch the shades that we use. So let's start with the pastel palette here. So here is the pastel lavender and the pastel blue. You can see the pastel lavender is going to be very light, very sheer. And as I mentioned, these are really more of a pressed pigment, but you know, it's a nice smooth formula. Pressed pigments in the past, I feel like were very, a little like patchy. This is going to be from our Neons palette. So we've got the purple and the blue here. And then this is the purple from the primaries, which again, you know, you can see that when you blend these, they really, I mean, doesn't this, it just looks pink to me. It doesn't really look purple. You can see there's definitely going to be a very pink base, but the pastel is going to be more blue toned purple in comparison to the neon and the primary purple. And we use the two lightest shades here in the Viseart Orange Violet, but let's go ahead and just swatch these three plum shades in general. You can see that the deepest one is going to definitely be a bit more red in comparison. Let me just buff some of those out. All right, so here's our lightest shade, kind of buffed out a little bit. Middle shade and the deepest shade. So again, they're all going to have a bit of that red tone underneath, which I think really helps with it being a blush. If it's too cool, too blue based, it can kind of make you look a little dead. But this one is going to be, the lightest one has more blue than the other two. So I decided to switch back to the purple lips. And yeah, I have to say, I think this was a lot of fun. I'd love to know your thoughts on these. You know, is an all purple look something that I will do frequently? No, but it was fun to play with. And I do think that the Dries Van Noten lipsticks are really great as mixers, particularly if you are somebody who has a lot, you're looking for cooler tone shades and you have a lot of warm tone shades that you would like to be able to cool off. I think this is a great way to do that. So I think, you know, they don't have to be wild and crazy. You can definitely make them a little bit softer. You can mix them with things and, you know, you could even just dab it on for a little bit of color, top it with some gloss and so forth, just to give something a slightly different like dimension or a slightly different shine or shade to it. And the Bakeup Beauty, I have to say, I've been really enjoying their pigments so far. Again, they're more of a pressed pigment, so they do last all day, no fading. There's a little bit of powder kick up in the pan, but not much. Very similar to the Hindosh palettes, aside from obviously being more in a traditional eyeshadow presentation. And the packaging on that is all plastic and yeah, very easy to travel with. The Viseart blushes, I like them. They are pretty pigmented, and so you do want to be careful not to have too much pigment on your brush when you're first putting it on, because, you know, go in with less. Less is more, and build it up. But they are, you know, a great blush, and I think they're really easy to use. The Pat McGrath highlighter, it's a beaming purple holographic highlighter. It's fun. It's obviously not going to be a subtle highlighter at all, but if you have been looking for something fun like that, you know, I think it's a great option. I cannot wait personally until they bring back purple mascaras. I remember a long time ago, Chanel used to have one. It was my favorite. Their purple and their green mascara were ones that I would purchase. I purchased several of them. They were like limited edition before they were gone. I miss those. I really hope that we start to see more of those. I think purple mascara, like a deeper eggplant purple, can actually be really beautiful and, you know, subtle still on the eyes. So I'm hoping that those, you know, make their way back now that color mascara are kind of having a moment right now. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.